lot has happened since the Action 3 and the GoPro Hero 11 were released last September. My Action 3 has since been replaced due to the known focusing issue. My Hero 11 has been repaired. There have been quite a few firmware updates that have also added several new features, and we have a new competitor, the GoPro Hero 11 Mini, which I will simply call Mini in this video. One thing in advance, the Action 3 is now the better camera than a few months ago, and I must also admit that after intensive use, I have also changed my mind on certain things. Is the Hero 11 Black still the best action camera you can buy? Let's find out. There are 20 categories. The winner of a category usually gets 2 points and the second place gets 1 point. So let the games begin. You should be able to mount an action camera as flexibly as possible. Mounted on a helmet, it should disturb as little as possible. Therefore, it is important that an action camera is as small and light as possible. The smallest and lightest of the 3 action cameras we are testing today is, of course, the GoPro Hero 11 Mini. However, I would like to state clearly, although the Mini is the smallest camera and the lightest camera in today's test, it only deserves the name Mini to a limited extent. Its volume is about 2/3 that of the Hero 11 Black. So I wouldn't necessarily call it Mini. You can use and mount the Action 3 with or without the frame. If you use it without the frame, it's visibly smaller than the Hero 11 Black. It's also a bit lighter. In terms of portability, the Mini gets 2 points and the Action 3 1 point. An action camera should of course be able to withstand quite a bit. After all, it's meant for action. A large back display is a possible weak point, even if it is very useful. With both the Hero 11 and the Action 3, dropping the camera can cause the display to break, which can mean a total loss for the camera. With the Mini, there is no such risk. The lens cover, which is the only weak point, is easily replaceable. Unlike the Hero 11, the Action 3 has a frame. The frame improves the protection of the camera, but also makes it much bulkier. Since I already gave the Action 3 a point for portability, it would be inconsistent to give a point for the frame here. Therefore, the Mini gets 2 points, and the Action 3 and Hero 11 get 1 point each. The Action 3 has a magnetic mount. This mount works great. It is one of the most useful innovations in action cameras in recent years. It's quick and easy to detach the camera, put it in your pocket, or attach it elsewhere. The Hero 11 and the Mini have built-in mounting fingers on the bottom of the camera. The Mini has another pair on the back. This is also very useful as it expands the options for mounting the camera in the best way possible. The Action 3 gets 2 points for the magnetic mount, and the Mini gets 1 point. A display can be a weak point of an action camera if you drop it, for example. However, it improves the usability considerably. The Mini only has a very small display on the top. With the help of this display, you can change the most important settings. To check framing or for more advanced settings, you need to connect the Mini to a smartphone. The Hero 11 and Action 3 have an identically sized back display and an equally sized front display. The 2 back displays are about similarly bright at maximum brightness. The front display of the Action 3 seems a bit brighter. In addition, and this is a very important difference, it is a touch display. You can therefore change all settings on the Action 3 with the front display. Depending on how the camera is mounted, this can be a big advantage. For this reason, the Action 3 gets 2 points in this category and the Hero 11 gets 1. The Hero 11 and the Mini are waterproof up to 10 meters. In practice, the Mini even has an advantage underwater, since you can change several settings underwater with the help of the 2 buttons and the small status display. On the Hero 11, only the preset can be changed without touch display. The Action 3 is waterproof up to 16 meters, unlike the 2 GoPros. For many, that may not make a difference. The basic diving certificate open water allows diving up to 18 meters. The Action 3 could therefore almost be sufficient for this. Even though I would always recommend a dive case for diving, the Action 3 gets 2 points from me and the Mini 1 point. I have to admit that this is a category that I find very difficult to judge objectively. I've been used to using GoPro cameras for many years and know the menu of these cameras inside and out. To make it easier to get started, GoPro has introduced a beginner mode on the Hero 11. This makes it easier to get started, especially for those who have never used a GoPro before and would be overwhelmed by the many setting options. However, the lack of a display on the Mini is a disadvantage in this context. The smartphone has to be used to adjust many settings and the framing can only be checked using a smartphone. The Action 3 can be operated relatively easily and well, similar to the Hero 11. It is admittedly difficult to justify giving the Hero 11 preference here. For this reason, I give the Action 3 and the Hero 11 2 points and the Mini 1 point in this category. Let's move on to the most important categories, image quality. And here there has been quite a bit of improvement. DJI in particular has tried to improve image quality via firmware updates. Has that been successful? The two GoPros produce exactly the same images and offer the same options in video mode. Thus, there will be no second place in the following categories. With Hero 11, both GoPros are meant in the following categories. An action camera should have a particularly wide field of view. This creates a very immersive look. And this is where the Action 3 has a great strength. Its field of view is visibly wider than that of the Hero 11 in almost all settings. The wide frame roughly corresponds to the field of view of the Hero 11, but the Hero 11 with Hyperview has a new and particularly large field of view. Here, a shot is taken in the 8:7 format and stretched in width. The field of view is therefore larger vertically than in the other settings. However, this process leads to extreme distortions at the sides. Furthermore, even Hyperview does not result in a wider field of view than the Action 3's field of view ultra-wide. The sensor of the GoPro also has an almost square format. As mentioned, shots in the 8:7 format are therefore possible. However, this results in black bars on both sides. But you can select a horizontal or vertical crop from the shot, which is great for social media, for example. Hyperview and the 8:7 format are two interesting new features, but I still prefer the Action 3's particularly wide field of view. 2 points for the Action 3. Both cameras produce very beautiful shots. However, a few clear differences stand out. In the default settings, the Action 3's image has significantly more saturation. The Action 3's image also has more contrast. Especially the dark areas in the image are noticeably darker. This simply looks a bit cooler at first glance. However, details are also lost in the shadows, which cannot be recovered. The GoPro's images are also a bit warmer. They contain more yellow and orange tones. A special feature of the GoPro is that it emphasized details very strongly. The image has a lot of clarity. The Action 3's image, on the other hand, is much softer and thus more cinematic. When we look at shots of the skin tones, this is particularly noticeable. The exaggerated clarity of the GoPro shots has rather disadvantages here. It is also noticeable in these shots that the focus problem of the Action 3 still does not seem to be completely solved. We'll come to that later. All of the GoPro's shots so far have been taken with the standard color profile Natural. The Hero 11 has another color profile, Vibrant. Vibrant differs from Natural almost exclusively in that it has more saturation. Here you can see a comparison. It's hard to pick a clear winner in this category. Although I personally prefer a softer look overall, the GoPro's two color profiles give it an advantage. Plus, I prefer the GoPro's slightly warmer footage. That's why I give the two GoPros 2 points, and because the difference is close, the Action 3 1 point. It is also not easy to determine a clear winner in terms of dynamic range. Both cameras protect the highlights, that is the bright areas in the image, comparably well. The GoPro has the advantage of showing a bit more detail in the dark areas, as we have already seen. On the other hand, the Action 3 now has an HDR mode that protects the highlights in particular a bit better. However, this HDR mode is a separate shooting mode that has a number of limitations when it comes to frame rates and settings. Overall, this is a tie for me. All three cameras get 2 points. If you want a higher dynamic range and want to grade the colors of the shot yourself, you should use a flat color profile. GoPro has the color profile flat. The Action 3, the color profile D-Cine-like. Both color profiles have much less saturation than the standard color profiles. D-Cine-like has even less saturation than GoPro's flat. A flat color profile should also have less contrast, also to improve dynamic range. It's easy to add contrast later, so I don't understand why the Action 3 with D-Cine-like continues to take extremely high contrast shots. Here I added some saturation and brightened the shadows. Especially in the dark areas of the image, many details disappear on the Action 3. GoPro has solved that better. 2 points for the GoPros. The GoPro shoots in up to 5.3K. The highest resolution on the Action 3 is 4K. Especially when zoomed in, you can see the advantages of the Hero 11's higher resolution image sensor. More detail can be seen. Especially if you want to crop your shot in post, the GoPro Hero 11 offers advantages. But the image as a whole also looks a bit more detailed. For this, the Hero 11 gets 2 points. However, I see the biggest difference in image quality in the compression. In order to keep the file sizes small, video recordings are compressed. Especially when there are a lot of small details in the image in similar color, however, this process can quickly lead to artifacts. This results in muddy areas in the image. The image quality is reduced and details are lost. And I have the impression that GoPro has this under control much better. The Action 3 loses a lot more detail due to compression. Watch the path or the bushes on the side. It's hard to judge on YouTube because the footage is compressed again in video editing and by YouTube itself. The Hero 11 gets 2 points. The Hero 11 also has two minor advantages when it comes to slow motion recording. All cameras can shoot in 4K at 120 frames per second, but only the GoPro can do that in Super View, while ultra-wide is not available on the Action 3. Therefore, for the first time it comes to the GoPro producing a wider field of view than the Action 3. The image quality is comparable to the lower frame rates. Now, if you want to shoot slow motion at 240 frames per second, you'll have to reduce the resolution on the Action 3 to 1080. The two GoPros on the other hand can shoot in 2.7K at 240 frames per second. The difference in quality isn't huge, but it's visible. That's 2 points for the GoPro Hero 11. An important category when evaluating a camera's image quality is its performance in low light. Especially cameras with smaller sensors have difficulties here. High ISO values quickly lead to unsightly image noise. But even in this category, it is very difficult to determine a clear difference. I have the impression that DJI has made some improvements here. To avoid incorrect results, I fixed the exposure settings. Nevertheless, the shot of the GoPro is a bit brighter. To make the shots comparable and the image noise more visible, I brightened the shadows a bit here on the Action 3. And even if we increase the ISO value further, both shots have a similar amount of image noise. This shot, taken using the automatic mode and in motion, is also comparably good. I therefore give all three cameras 1 point. Before we look at the stabilization, I'd like to talk about particular features and the experiences I've had with these cameras. My Action 3 had a very clear focusing issue. Shots from about a meter away were completely out of focus. Only after multiple complaints and persistent insistence, I was able to send the camera in and it was then also replaced. DJI had previously always claimed that the shots of my camera were normal. The image of the new Action 3 is still rather soft at about 1 meter distance and seems a bit blurry, but it looks much better than that of my old camera. Perhaps the blurry image from a short distance is actually due to the slightly larger sensor. Of course, it has to be said that close-ups are not a typical use for an action camera. My Hero 11 also had to be repaired. The front display was defective. The Mini has worked flawlessly so far. The Hero 11 offers a few more settings than the Action 3. For example, you can schedule shots or adjust the sharpness. Using the app, you can also adjust the field of view in post and turn a 4:3 shot into a super view shot. Of course, this only works from wide to narrow and not vice versa. The Action 3, on the other hand, allows you to automatically remove the poles when skiing or snowboarding. That too is only possible in the smartphone app. A particular shortcoming of the Mini is the fixed battery. You can't bring replacement batteries and the defect of the battery can lead to a total failure of the camera. All things considered and taking into account the focus issue and the features, I give the Hero 11 2 points. The Mini doesn't get a point this time because of the fixed battery. All three cameras have excellent image stabilization, and even though the Action 3 has always been able to keep up well in this area, DJI has improved here as well. With Rocksteady Plus, an even better stabilization mode was introduced. However, this leads to an even stronger crop and boost on the GoPro. When we compare the shots with each other, here in standard mode, we quickly notice that the GoPro can no longer keep up when it comes to strong movements. Even when comparing Rocksteady Plus and Boost, the Action 3 stabilizes the shot a bit better. For me, the stabilization category goes to the Action 3. Depending on what you want to capture with your action camera, audio quality can also be important. For example, if you also want to use your action camera to take vacation videos. You're hearing the audio from the three cameras alternately right now. The Mini and the Hero 11 will be rated separately again from now on. The audio quality outdoors can be quite different from the audio quality in the office. Can you hear a significant difference between the three cameras? Let's now listen to a few more recordings on the bike and how the cameras handle wind noise. When it comes to audio quality, it's not easy to pick a clear winner. The Hero 11 sounds slightly better and fuller than the Mini. The sound from both GoPros is definitely louder than that of the Action 3. The two GoPros also handle wind and ambient noise better. Depending on the movement, the wind can cause some noise on the Action 3. On the other hand, the voice sounds clearer on the Action 3 in a quiet environment. Still, I would prefer the sound of the GoPro in an action camera. I give the Hero 11 2 points and the Mini 1 point. When it comes to battery life, the Hero 11 and Mini can't compete with the Action 3, and the difference is pretty big. I did a test in 4K 30. The Mini gave up after 1 hour and 16 minutes. The Hero 11 after 1 hour and 28 minutes, while the Action 3 lasted 2 hours and 13 minutes. A clear win for the Action 3. 2 points for that, 1 point for the Hero 11 and none for the Mini. Unfortunately, the situation is similar when it comes to overheating. Here too, the Action 3 can clearly outpace the two GoPros. Since it is rather cool here in my office, I placed the 3 cameras in direct sunlight and started recording in 4K 30. Both GoPros surprisingly shut down at the same time after 30 minutes due to overheating. For the Action 3, direct sun was not a problem. No overheating occurred. In the shade at about 18 degrees Celsius and 4K 60, the Mini lasted 29 minutes, while the Hero 11 deactivated after 40 minutes due to overheating. Even in this situation, the Action 3 doesn't overheat. It runs until the battery runs out. Now you shouldn't misjudge these numbers. An action camera is probably rarely used in an office on a tripod. Often there is airflow and the camera is cooled by it. To simulate this, I used a fan, and now none of the 3 cameras shut down in 4K 60 due to overheating. Still, this category clearly goes to the Action 3. The Hero 11 gets 1 point, the Mini none. One last topic, which is of course very important, is price. The price can change a lot over time and depending on special offers. You'll find links to current offers for all 3 cameras in the video description, by the way. At the moment, the Mini and the Action 3 cost about the same. The Hero 11 is about $100 more expensive. So that's 2 points for the Action 3 and the Mini and 1 for the Hero 11. And with that we have a winner, or rather 2 winners. The Hero 11 and the Action 3 win with 24 points each. The Mini is only 1 point behind. I hope the result makes it clear that all 3 cameras are excellent. Of course, the awarding of points is very subjective and the result also depends on the categories. The Hero 11 and the Mini have a slight edge in image quality, especially when it comes to details and compression. The big strengths of the Action 3 are the mount, battery and overheating. However, both manufacturers need to improve on quality control in the future. If you're still undecided whether to get the Mini or the Hero 11, check out my in-depth comparison. And if you're thinking about getting a 360 camera, you can also find a buying guide on my channel. You can find links to both videos in the video description. Give me a like as feedback if the video was interesting to you. There will be more videos on the Hero 11 and the Action 3. So stay tuned and see you next time.